Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this special workshop today, Riding the Waves of Change, Mindfulness for Uncertain Times. My name is John Roberts. I'm the Operations Manager for Mindfulness-Based Learning here at Point 32 Health and its family of companies, including Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare and Tufts Health Plan. Today, I have the honor of introducing my colleague and friend, Tara Healey, who founded our Mind the Moment program at Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare back in 2005. Now, I'll be spending most of my time in the background today, prepared to offer any support to Tara that she might need during the presentation. Now, we'd love for this session to be as interactive as possible, though. So before I leave, please take a moment, open the chat. That will be the primary way that we will communicate with each other today. And so, Tara, I think I will invite you then to go ahead and take us away.
Thank you, John. First of all, I just want a really warm welcome to all of you. I'm really so delighted to have this opportunity to offer this session, and especially in the times that we're in. I mean, clearly a lot of global unrest, political, social, racial, environmental, and not but in the forefront is this really significant election that we have coming up. And regardless of which side of the political fence you're on or how you're voting, that it is a time of great uncertainty and turbulence, and it just feels really good to be together and to be in community at this time and use practice as a way to really support us. So I actually want to begin with just like 30 to 45 seconds or so of an arrival practice, just, having a seat or standing. So either standing or seated is fine. And just situate yourself, whether you're standing or seated, in a way that feels kind of grounded and stable. Let your weight drop into the ground below, maintaining an engaged posture. So you're sitting in a way that is upright, not too loose and not too tight. Your eyes could be open or closed, whatever feels most comfortable. And just take 2 deep breaths, making your exhalation longer than your inhalation. And we'll begin the session today by just simply letting go of all that has happened so far in your day, releasing anticipation of what's going to come next, even, the next few moments, and allow yourself to fully arrive, mind and body. And bring your awareness to your whole body. So just feel the physical sensations within your whole body. So pulsing, vibration, tingling, perhaps you're aware of temperature, aware of the touch of clothes on the skin, something we're always not necessarily paying attention to, perhaps the back of the body and the points of contact. So just allowing whatever emotions, whatever body sensations are present, to be there, just receiving, just knowing that they're there. They may be pleasant or unpleasant, or maybe neither one of those, kind of neutral. And it's all included, inviting them all. So just feel into the expression in your body just for a moment. You might notice the rhythm of your breath. Perhaps you're aware of sound in the room or outside of the room. And so we're keeping sort of a wide angle lens of awareness over the whole body and expanding to include sound. And just allowing yourself to fully arrive, nothing else to do, nowhere else to be, just giving this time to yourself to be together and to practice. And as you feel ready, if your eyes were closed, you can go ahead and open the eyes. And John's going to drive the PowerPoint for me this morning, or this afternoon, rather. And so let me give you just a little bit of a preview of where we're going. So I actually want to do another check-in, which is just to see how people have been feeling lately, and maybe even things that you've currently been doing that have been helpful. I'll share a few reflections. I'm going to share a definition of mindfulness. We are going to be doing some practices and then direct you to resources as well. And so go ahead, John, you can show the next slide, which is the question. What emotions have been up for you? What have you been feeling? What's been most prevalent? Yeah, so terrified, anxious, not sleeping well, fear, excitement, yeah, exhaustion. There's excited and hopeful as well. Same with somebody saying same with dreams. Yeah, I've been having kind of odd dreams lately too, and also not sleeping that well. Uncertainty. Yeah. You know, Judd Brewer has had this fear plus uncertainty equals anxiety. That fear, when we feel fearful, it's helpful if we have some knowledge that can support us, but we don't always have that information. And so it leads to anxious feelings, which, you know, many, if not all of us are experiencing. So I actually want to share just like a few reflections. I think, you know, that the times we're in are certainly not unprecedented. You know, we have historically had really challenging times in our history. I mean, globally. And all of what you've just mentioned about how you're feeling, all of us, you know, share that experience. And I think, you know, that we have a basic human need, really all of us, for protection, for security, and for comfort. And we do what we can to create our environment so that those basic needs can be met. We strategize to set things up as best we can. But we know that life offers up challenges to those basic needs. Those basic needs are challenged by wanting things that we can't have, or having something we wish we didn't have, or simply wanting things to be other than the way they are. Like, in any of those things challenge those basic needs, but that is part of our life. And a common and understandable response is to resist and to distract in some way, to seek diversions. And there's nothing wrong with this at times. And in fact, it can feel helpful to seek a diversion. But the idea is that you want to see the mental habit pattern clearly. And that allows you to then work with the resistance. Because typically what arises when we want things to be other than the way they are is that we feel some sense of resistance. And the idea is that the minute we see that clearly, we can start to relate to that resistance and we can work with it. So we can basically catch ourselves spinning off, hardening to a particular situation, even hardening to another human being, which I think there is a fair amount of that going on as well. And we can catch ourselves also closing down. But mindful awareness helps us see clearly how things actually are now, not how we wish they were, or how we think they should be, but how they are. And this kind of clarity then enables us to actually get closer to the emotion, and it guides our response. So the action that we take is informed by mindful awareness, by seeing clearly. So we're getting closer to the emotion. And what does getting closer to the emotion mean? And that's what we're really going to spend our session today is, you know, how do we get closer to the emotion? Because that's a really significant principle in this practice. But often what happens in this is that we get caught up in an emotion. We get lost in it. But the moment we recognize what's happening, that very moment that we recognize it, we have agency. And I kind of like that whole idea, is that we're lost in thought, and it could be a difficult emotion, a challenging emotion. hardening to another person, or just wanting a situation to be different. And as soon as we see it, I always say, like, you can sort of pat yourself on the back because you're no longer lost, and that gives you some agency. There's a phrase I've always loved, which is mindfulness widens the gap between impulse and action. So we begin to develop a relationship with that which we don't want, because that is what life is going to bring us. And it can seem even counterintuitive to turn toward and be with an emotion, but this mindset is what holds the possibility to change our relationship to it from one of resistance to one of curiosity and allowance. And I would say too, like, I think there has to be a certain kind of innate trust in the process, to even do it. Um, but it's an empirical practice. So even if you have just a little bit of curiosity, a little bit of trust to test it out. Um, so we change our relationship from one of resistance to one of curiosity and allowance. And what we begin to see, and this is core to this practice, we begin to see its changing nature. We begin to see that every thought, every emotion, every body sensation arrives. We don't necessarily call it forth. In fact, often we don't. When we see it, we will see that it will do its thing. It will have a life and it will move. And that has always brought a great deal of comfort to me, this idea of impermanence and of change. So the idea is we can transform the difficult emotions that we're experiencing and take the energy of it and bring that energy into action that is in alignment with our values. And, I always think it's helpful too. This practice helps us see clearly, what we can change and influence and what we can't. So, for instance, with the upcoming election, I got involved with a bunch of people who are writing postcards to get the vote out. So, to me, I felt like, you know, that feels like I'm doing my part to potentially influence people who might not have voted to get out and vote. So I think the practice helps us see what I can control, what I can influence, and then do it. And so what I want to do is just go ahead and move now into, like, what does this look like? What are some of these practices? How do we actually do this? And you can go to the next slide, John. So I want to provide a working definition of mindfulness that I use all the time. That it is simply a quality of mind that's awake and aware and knows it, with an attitude of receptivity, curiosity, and interest. It's a willingness to meet whatever experience you're having and to allow for it. So all the emotions, body sensations, there is an allowance, there is a moving toward and a feeling of that, which we'll do in just a minute. But it's a quality of mind that's awake and aware. The opposite is when you're lost in thought. And I think to think about the opposite is really helpful. When you're lost in thought, you don't know it. What typically happens is the thought slips in unnoticed, and then we have a narrative playing. But all of us throughout the day wake up to it. We'll catch it. And that's a significant moment. So I would say, I would underscore that when that is happening to you. So you're awake and aware, and you actually know it. Now, this practice, mindfulness, has a particular attitude in the mind of receptivity, curiosity, and interest to whatever has arisen. So whether it is something pleasant or unpleasant, or maybe neither one of those, you're receptive, you're curious, you're interested. It's like mindfulness can be likened to an examination of the inner world, the way looking through a microscope is to the outer. You bring that kind of, what is here? What is actually going on? And you allow for it. So we're going to look at a practice called RAIN that is really helps us turn toward. I want to talk about movement practices, because I think in times of a lot of emotional upheaval, I think movement practices are really helpful. Body scan practices, again, it's an active practice, breath practice, active compassion practice as well. So let's go ahead to what is RAIN. RAIN is this is a little bit of an adaptation of it, but one of my teachers very early on was Michelle McDonald. And she coined this phrase, which I loved, which is recognize, allow, investigate, and note. So for instance, when you feel provoked in some way, the capacity to see that provocation, the recognition that it happened is the first step. The allowing just simply means you may not like it, but it's here. And then you bring awareness to the whole body. So come out of the narrative in the head about it. So I've been provoked in some way. It could be something somebody said or did, or the recognition, because we can be lost in that without seeing it. But there's a moment of recognition, simple allowance, and then investigate what is happening. So what physically am I feeling? And you can make notes to do that, like, heat or tightness or tingling. So you're coming out of the head and you're coming into the body. And that is a practice that you can just do on the fly, that it is something that is available to you all the time. So movement practices, I think, in times of upheaval are really, really helpful. And that could be just walking practice. So getting out and moving your body, but keeping awareness to your body sensations and to your surroundings, and especially helpful out in nature. I think that nature has such healing capacities. So again, the mind, as we're doing walking practice and perhaps walking in nature, the mind will be lost in narratives at different points, but it's just keep waking up to it and seeing it, and then coming back to the movement of the body and your surroundings, so sound and scent. So a body scan. So this is what I want to, a practice that I would love to take you through now. So we've got a few minutes to do that. And this is also something that you can connect back to that RAIN practice. So the recognize, allow, the investigation is where we're bringing full awareness to the body and coming out of the stories in our mind and feeling whatever emotion has arisen, feeling the sensations of that emotion. So I'm going to take us through a body scan. Again, you can be seated. You can even be lying down if you're not too tired. You could also be standing. And again, we did this a little bit in the beginning, but I'm going to take us through different parts of the body, sort of sweeping attention through the body. So taking a moment to find a posture that feels comfortable and just bring full awareness to your whole body. Notice what sensations are happening. Notice points of contact, perhaps notice the heartbeat. And notice whatever physical sensations are arising. And again, all allowed, whether they feel pleasant to you or whether they feel unpleasant or neutral. We're learning to gain some balance with the unpleasant, and also learning with the pleasant sensations that we can actually, they can be more enhanced because we know that they will also move. But let's bring awareness to the very top of the head. And as we move down the body, just feel whatever you're feeling and whatever sensations or lack of sensations, that is something to be aware of. So coming down over the sides and the back of the head, moving around to the face, the softening muscles of the face to the degree that you can. Coming down now over the neck and shoulders. And sweeping awareness down over the upper arms, forearms, and hands. Isolating this part of your body and just seeing what's there. And rather than thinking, you are feeling from the inside out. So coming now to the torso, noticing what sensations are there, feeling the physical sensations. And moving down over the hips and thighs. And perhaps you're aware of a point of contact or the closed. And moving down over the knees, the lower legs. And to the feet. Bringing awareness back to the whole body. Notice if there are any areas that are calling for your attention. Just letting your attention rest there, either over whole body awareness or if there's a particular area. Take a minute to go to that. And go ahead and release that, and returning, take a moment just to reorient to the space that you're in. So the other thing, again, like this is a something that you can do on the fly, as it says, anytime, anywhere, in any posture, is a slow inhale to a count of 4, hold to a count of 4, slow exhale to a count of 4, and then repeat. And so using the breath as a way to help stabilize, to help settle, has been used for thousands of years. So the breath is always available to you. Even simply taking a deep inhalation through the nose and then making your exhalation longer is another really good practice. You could do it waiting in line somewhere. You could do the box breathing waiting in line somewhere. But the idea is that we want to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system to help us with a particular difficult emotion that has arisen. You can also do breath counting. So you could count to 3 on an inhale, count to 3 on an exhale, count to 4 on an inhale, count to 4 on an exhale, and go up to 7 and then relax that. Maybe do that like a couple times, but lots of breath practices because those can be used immediately and really helpful. So compassion practice, this too can be used anywhere, anytime. And this is literally just offering, and you can make up the phrases. The ones that I use, and let's go ahead and do this. So I will share the practice that I always close my meditation with. So seated, eyes open or closed. And I end every practice with, may I be peaceful and at ease. May my heart be soft and open. May I be safe and protected, and my body healthy and strong. So and sometimes I will just use one of those phrases. So if I'm in a situation that is stressful to me, and I've had a few of those lately, I'll just say, may I feel ease in this moment. Just may I feel ease in this moment. So you can keep it really, really simple. And there's very good research that shows that this matters. That whatever we incline our minds toward on a regular basis, that's what we're training. And so to keep that in mind, so what are your own mental habit patterns? This practice helps us see our mental habit patterns with more clarity. And so we can start to introduce some of these practices, metta or loving kindness or compassion practices, not only for ourselves, but you can then also extend that out as well. Sometimes I'll even, if I'm driving and I see somebody who seems like they need a phrase, I might say, may that person be well, may that person be happy. And again, you're just, inclining your mind from one of negativity perhaps, or whatever one's mental habit patterns are. And you don't have to actually feel it. That's what my teachers have always said. It's just that you have the intent to feel it. So what else? One more thing. So I just was thinking, there's so many things that support us. So music, movement, nature, sleep, food, social connection. I mean, all of these things are important and help us in these times of uncertainty. And social connection feels really important. I think that I was thinking lately about on election day and the day after, making a plan to Zoom with friends or connect with people, and make that plan, before election day. But I want to read a poem that has always brought me a lot of comfort by Wendell Berry that I think might be familiar as a way to end. Um, when despair for the world grows in me and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. There are, some of these practices matter. I mean, the breath practices that you can do anywhere. Nobody has to know what you're doing, but you're just knowing where your attention is, knowing where your body is, feeling the physicality of fear and anxiety. Again, that kind of turning toward is so important. And I just want to thank everybody for joining this half-hour session.